This is Vlog, themed exploring WSU's research niche areas with leading researchers. Join us for a series of vlogs that will see Vice-Chancellor and Principal, Professor Rushila Nolundi Songa, engaging with various academics and researchers.
Good day to our viewers. Today I'm having a conversation with Mr. Letsatsi. He is the leader of the cultural and creative industries niche area. Mr. Letsatsi, you are most welcome.
Thank you.
May you kindly introduce yourself and tell us briefly about the nature of your research niche area and, of course, the colleagues in your team.
Thanks, Prof. My full name is Reginald Letsatsi. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Visual Arts. And in my team, I've got a wide range of colleagues, ranging from professors to doctors and just lecturers and technicians, if you like, but are also central in our research projects, despite the positions, which is more or less yes.
All right. And briefly about the profiles, maybe as you do so, if there are sub areas in that holistic one, may you please also just tell us a little bit about them?
Though our department runs diploma qualifications and BTech, but we also fashion and fine arts. But when we go into this area of niche research, we actually wear the same blanket or the same cap. Okay. And we have different fields. I mean, I can select one person like Professor John Steele, who supervises our BTech program, a very clued up indigenous knowledge expert. His research on indigenous knowledge grows every year, new things. And the students look into those areas. And then there's someone like, who just left actually, Mr. Ngogazi Lita, who's a printmaker and a business entrepreneur. His ideas kind of fit into the industry, in the culture industry, and permitting students to look at the entrepreneurial skills and how they fit into the industry. And because we're different, I come from a museum background. Before I became an academic, I've run museums before, and then I've set up museum studies in other universities. So I joined WUSU to also incorporate those specialist fields like art collections, beadwork, indigenous knowledge, Amatambo from Zululand, Kwandebele, Xhosa land, Zimbabwe, and the commonalities. So I'm looking at those. I know that WUSU has a collection in Mthatha. Yes. I haven't looked at it, but I've been handling queries from vets about it, because we have examples of those beadwork that were won by Madiba when he went to prison, which I had at the British Museum. So I keep myself clued up and connected with those sorts of things for our own benefit. And there are many others. There's another person in the department who was with WUSU, but then came back again, Mr. Sonwabile Ngai, who's a ceramist, who's won numerous national awards, some ranging to about 100,000 for excellent ceramic pieces. He does his own research on ceramics, very detailed, very technical, and also entrepreneurial. So we've got a wide range. And then the other people who are far more reserved, that they don't like to publish or talk until the bread is baked. So that's more or less what you have here.
All right.
Thanks.
Now, how important is your research niche area in relation to the white paper on arts and culture?
Yes, the white paper on arts and culture, which dates 1996, was the first piece of legislation, or translation of, written by Dr. Ben Gubani. I think he was a Minister of Arts and Culture. It proposes quite a number of things. At the time, it was too early to perceive that someone would say the arts are related. I didn't believe it. But now I do, that they don't stand as silos. They connect. If you get someone who's a graphic designer, they probably is an artist, and they design clothes. They also make music, write content for television. So if you study these creative industries, they place you in a big space where you can do so much. So the white paper is actually can be considered as being a success so far, though it's maybe 15 years now, that a lot of things it proposed actually happening. It spoke about the art bank, that the country should have a bank full of artworks. I think there's one in Joburg, there's one in Free State. I'm hoping we're going to have this reserve bank as our art bank, which is close to our department on Cambridge Street. So there's quite a lot. I can make a whole list, yes.
All right, and how relevant is your research niche area in comparison to other institutions of higher learning, and most importantly to human rights organizations in the country and abroad?
Yes. I think our niche area research is very important in the sense that the fact that other institutions are pouching on us for stuff, that means we're tapping on right things. I think University of Cape Town, if I'm allowed to mention it, is becoming a leading institution in producing researchers that research on indigenous knowledge, like Ubutwasa, and give people PhDs on those. We didn't, no black university did that. But I think those people came from USU. So we should actually encourage them to pursue those studies rather than going elsewhere. So our studies, our research areas are very relevant. And this is how I could possibly say we can rate ourselves actually as a result. That these people who are famous artists in Joburg, you can call any of them. They studied here. Even David Tlale came from USU.
Wow.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yes.
All right. And then what drives you and the team to take up research challenges right now?
Yes. I think there's so much need for new knowledge everywhere. People make use of internet, Google, social media to ask questions. And if they don't get answers, they come to the institution. So I think it becomes a bigger responsibility that we should be able to dispense information. So that drives us to actually continue doing research precisely because it's actually needed. Some years ago, maybe it must have been 10 years ago, I found this article that was published in England, which shows how publications become digital from solid. But it showed here that if you look at digital publications, e-books, there's very few at the time, but now there's lots.
Absolutely.
So those solid books are actually obsolete because everyone's becoming digital. So even our research has to go into that media, becoming more digital, more accessible. In the past, it used to be vinyls, music, then there was CD-ROM. Now you can't get CDs, now you buy online. And I don't know how the artists get paid. I'm scared to ask. Okay, thanks. Yes.
How has COVID-19 impacted on the scope of your research niche area and most importantly on interactions with the creative industries?
Prof, COVID has had quite a number of good and bad influences. I've never ever in my life since I've become a creative person seen so much funding being available to artists.
Wow.
If you pick up your phone now, you'll see there's 10 funding calls now for people to bring their work, for exhibitions, for projects, which before COVID was impossible to find. There would be one person there calling artists everywhere. Secondly, it allowed artists to actually go straight into the markets to sell their work directly online, whereas in the past, they used to rely on galleries like Brand Gallery. Now they can sell. And they found that they can sell more work than selling through galleries. And I found that the word curatorship is now used generically. Even people who can come here and set up a jazz band, they'll say they curated that jazz band. So the word curatorship is actually becoming more and more loosely used. So the whole thing has changed. And then finding artists today is not as difficult as 20 years ago. If you want artists, if you just say, I'd like to see artists who produce indigenous paintings. They'll come through a social network within a few hours, and you'll say, I've had enough, I don't want any more, but I'm looking for this. So COVID has really brought quite a lot of things. It has opened funding to start with, but it has also brought confusion in the sense that artists or creative industries practitioners are actually throwing their work everywhere to see where they can catch, just like fishing, which is, but there was a big change. I'm looking forward to what it will do for young people who are studying when they go out, yes.
And talk about young people. In your niche area, do you have students? I know that you have art students, you have fashion students. Have you incorporated some of those students into your niche area?
We are allowed to engage them, especially when they are producing research paper as part of their requirements. And we really permit them to select whoever staff member they'd like to work with. I mean, we've had students from fashion side who were curious about art and have now taken art lessons privately. Some have offered to do modeling, as in sitting down or undressing to be painted, because they want to be part of this. And others have been curious on what we call arts management, which is a new course, which is also part of our niche area, which we hope in less than 5 years we'll be offering a master's degree in arts management within corporate.
What does it involve, the arts management?
Arts management,
what does it entail?
It entails about policy making.
Oh, I see.
Government framework, regulation of the industry, because it's not regulated. Right now, it's not regulated. Everybody knows to be a doctor, you need to spend 7 years. But with artists, there is no, because you get self-taughts too, and they fit in the field. And you get highly academic people who don't make it in the field still. So it's not regulated. But any attempt to regulate will actually destroy it again. It's like regulating eagles who fly from Canada to Zimbabwe. You say they need to have passports and visa, and that means they can't fly over the world. So the artists need to be free to go anywhere they want. But as soon as you regulate them, then you retard creativity. Yes.
And how is your niche area rated in the cultural and creative industries?
Our niche area is well placed. I cannot rate it in relation to an institution right here, in the sense that we are known to be part of the, what do you call those institutions? Generic universities, comprehensive universities. But apart from being black and institution, we've had trades that were noted. I personally noted Woos a long time ago that they were good at making prints. The prints are sold at Grahamstown Festival. The prints are sold at Edinburgh Festival in the UK. The prints are collected by many foundations in the world. But credit does not really come right because we probably didn't market them properly, that they belong to us. So our institution has a track record of printmaking and outstanding printmakers like Jeff Rankin is probably long gone now. And most institutions in South Africa, whenever they advertise a post for a printmaker or a printmaker lecturer, they actually come here in the pouch. So we have a particular rating. We have Forte, which is good at history, heritage history, liberation struggle history, which some of us still research there. I personally do research there. I'm doing a research piece on a guitar that was owned by Giovanni Mbeki at Robben Island, whose cover was made out of cardboard and framed nicely with plastic. You know that plastic they use for x-rays, remember?
Yes.
So it was covered with that and stitched with a nylon string found on the rocks outside Robben Island. You know those fishing strings? It was done by someone called Masemula, who was a PAC leader. So they did share a cell at some point in their life. But most importantly, inside that guitar, we found some songs that were written by Giovanni Mbeki, but were sung by Miriam Makeba. We still don't know how they left the island. So this is really what I'm also researching, though it's not part of my academia work. So this really presents quite a lot of things for us.
That's fascinating.
Yes.
As we draw this conversation to a close, where do you see this niche area in the next 10 years?
I think the whole notion of niche area in 5 to 10 years, I believe, there will be more researchers in the world. And because of online and digital network, people are now able to publish. Though universities do regulate in terms of journals and things, but there's a giant population of people who are coming out. I mean, there's an artist here in East London. You can check him out. His name is Dr. Mitre. He's Indian. If you live in Wusu towards the traffic department, before you get to Steers, there's a practice there. I think he's 70, just got retired. He worked at Makiwan Hospital for 30 years.
Right.
He's a visual artist. He's actually more established as an artist than a medical doctor. When I was doing interviews with him, I discovered he's not the only one. There are about 6 to 7 artists who are actually medical doctors at the same time. So this field is actually quite broad, and there's need to investigate. And he publishes. He publishes book. He's doing a book launch at N. Bryan on the 6th of April, which looks at the role of women in Tanzania in terms of nurturing girls without families, and nurses that took up the role of being mothers in those families that had no. So he's written quite a lot. And though he has not been honored, but he's been honored by India, Mahatma Gandhi, the police force, because he's involved in investigating some deaths of boxing champions from Tanzania.
Okay.
So if they say someone was killed at night, they'll say, no, he was drunk, because I've seen the reports. So those are areas that I think are going to come out lots. We're going to have architects who do things that they shouldn't do. And we're going to have dancers who will do other things that, So the field is going to be quite big. And so if someone comes out of university, I think in 10 years' time, you can expect lots from them, not what they trained for. This is my vision, yes.
And indeed, we should be there as well to make sure that we leverage on that and make our own contributions.
Yes, absolutely.
No, thank you very much,
Thanks, Prof.
Mr. Letsatsi, for this conversation. And to our viewers, thank you again for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.